Thank you for joining us in this session of Spokane Public Schools Keep Learning Series for Literacy. Today's lesson is for all our fourth graders out there, and any child who is interested is welcome to join us. My name is Sarah, and I'm an instructional coach at Cooper Elementary in Spokane Schools, and I will be your teacher for this lesson. I'm so glad you are participating with me today. If you didn't see our previous lesson, you can find it on the KSPS website. You can still tune in to today's lesson if you haven't seen any of our others. Today we'll be learning about volcanoes and how they are both harmful and helpful to living things. For today's lesson, you will need a piece of paper and something to write with. I will give you a moment to gather your supplies. As we read, I want you to think about the structure of the text and how each section builds up to the end of the text. Think about how the ideas are developing from the beginning of the passage to the end. This text is titled Volcano by Mark Lyons. It begins when invisible gases escape from an opening at the mountain's top. Then a huge explosion fills the air. A cloud of steam, ash, and burning rock bursts out of the crater created by the blast. The sky becomes dark. Dust and ash block the sun. Hot melted rock gushes over the sides of the crater and travels down the mountain. A volcano has erupted. There's that word gushes we talked about last time. Take a look at the diagram. The inside of a volcano. We talked about this diagram last time. The diagram shows how magma is under pressure, and that magma pressure is building up so that the magma rises and eventually bursts out the top of the volcano, which creates a crater, and it turns to lava. Then gases, ashes, and steam are all in the air. A volcano is born. Active volcanoes, like the one described above, are often large mountains. When a volcano is born, however, it starts out as a crack in the surface of the earth. Hot, melted rock from deep inside Earth rises and pushes through this crack. This melted rock, called magma, forces its way out. The magma is now called lava. The lava cools and becomes hard. Over many years, the dried lava builds up into layers. After a while, these layers form a tall mountain. These volcanic mountains can form on dry land or under the sea on the ocean floor. Volcanic mountains born under the ocean can become islands. People think the island of Hawaii was formed this way. Most volcanoes form along the largest crack in Earth's surface. Earth's outermost layer, the crust, is made up of sections called plates. Plates float slowly on the liquid magma. The world's continents are on these plates. As the plates move, melted rock can push its way through the places where they meet. A string of volcanoes has formed along the edges of a large plate. This area is known as the Ring of Fire. California and Alaska are located along the Ring of Fire. New land is formed. Dried lava can add new land around a volcano. This can happen suddenly or over many years. Volcanoes can erupt violently, covering the surrounding area with rocks and ash. Other volcanoes are gentle, letting lava trickle slowly out of the opening and down the mountainside. Kilauea and Mauna Loa, two volcanoes on the island of Hawaii, usually give plenty of warning before they spew hot lava. Their lava sometimes adds new land to the island. So the last section talked about how volcanoes are formed, or how they are born, how they are made, where they even come from. This section talks about how new land is formed from the volcanoes, how volcanoes create new land. We talked about that last time, and it's so fascinating how the volcanoes can do positive things to help the environment. Detecting volcanoes. Long ago, people had no warning that a volcano was about to erupt. Because of this, many people died. Much has changed thanks to scientists who study volcanoes. Today, scientists almost always know when a volcano may erupt. They use instruments that measure escaping gas and earthquake-like tremors in the earth. Scientists use computers to check for bulges in the sides or near the top of a volcano. Scientists around the world are always at work predicting when the next volcano might erupt. Harmful or helpful? Volcanoes can be harmful. Hot gases and lava hurt living things. They can destroy crops and wipe out homes and towns. Temperatures can drop when clouds of ash block out the sun for days at a time. Daytime can seem like night. When this happens, more crops die. Sometimes people have to leave their homes because of the ash in the air. This ash makes it hard for people and animals to breathe. Volcanoes can also be helpful. Farmers use soil that comes from volcanoes. Dried lava holds useful minerals that help plants grow. Lava is also used to make soap. Volcanic rocks are used as building materials since they are easy to find and easy to work with. Gold, silver, and diamonds have also been found around and in old volcanoes. Hot water and steam from the volcanoes can be used to make electricity and to grow food in greenhouses. Many people will visit an area to watch a volcano spill lava or let out steam. A volcano can be a beautiful sight when seen from a distance. Active volcanoes allow steam, gas, and lava to escape, but dormant volcanoes do not show these signs of erupting. Around these volcanoes, new plants have sprouted, and animals once again roam the hillside among the ash and dried lava. Life has returned. Now, let's think about our purpose for reading today. Not only are we learning about volcanoes and how they are both harmful and helpful to living things, but we are also thinking about how the author wrote this passage to inform us about volcanoes. So how does each section build up to the end of the text? How are the ideas developing from the beginning of the passage to the end? The author is using description to help us understand the many aspects of volcanoes. The author also uses comparing and contrasting to help us explore how volcanoes can be positive and negative to living things, which is what we talked about during our last lesson. So each part of this text, each section talks about something different about how a volcano is formed and what it does, how it works. Today, for our written response, we have a new prompt. Today's prompt is, how does the author's use of paragraphs 6 and 7 add to the passage? Now, in this text, paragraphs 6 and 7 are the first two in the section titled Harmful versus Helpful. So on your screen, you can see paragraph 6 is the one that starts out saying volcanoes can be harmful, and paragraph 7 is the paragraph that starts out volcanoes can also be helpful. So I'm going to give you a moment to write down your prompt or question on your paper. So grab your paper and your writing tool and go ahead and write down the question. How does the author's use of paragraphs 6 and 7 add to the passage? Okay, now that you have the question written down, do you remember the strategy from yesterday that we used for writing in response to reading? You're right. We used the race strategy. So, in the race strategy, what's the first step we need to take to answer this question? Yep, R stands for restate the prompt. Go ahead and restate the prompt so you can answer the question. What did you write? I wrote, the author's use of paragraphs 6 and 7 add. Notice I didn't add a period there because we have to complete our sentence with our answer. I just restated the prompt so that I could answer the sentence completely. Now we can move to the second step, which is, yep, answering the question. Go ahead and think about the question and think about those paragraphs and what they talked about. Then answer the question. All right, so what do you think? How do those paragraphs add to the whole passage? Wow, great work, you guys. I see that paragraph 6 is the one where the author is telling us about how volcanoes are harmful to living things. Paragraph 7 is the one where the author tells us about how volcanoes can be helpful to living things. Therefore, I think that paragraphs 6 and 7 are showing the many ways that volcanoes benefit and damage living things. What is our third step for the race strategy? You're right. Cite your text evidence to support our thinking. I just explained that the information in those 2 paragraphs are what led me to my answer. Go ahead and cite your text evidence to support your answer. So here's what I wrote. The author's use of paragraphs 6 and 7 shows the many ways that volcanoes both benefit and damage living things. In paragraph 6, the author gives examples of how volcanoes are harmful to living things. In paragraph 7, the author gives examples of how volcanoes are helpful to living things. Now, what's our last step in the race strategy? Explain. The E stands for explain. So you get a chance to explain how the evidence supports your answer. I will leave that part up to you. But here's what I think. I think that all of this is part of the main idea we talked about in our last lesson. I think the author included these 2 paragraphs to inform readers about all of the positive and negative examples. Great work, friends. Now that we've read this passage together and responded to it in writing, you are now an expert on volcanoes and how they can affect living things in both negative and positive ways. I have enjoyed doing some literacy learning with you again today. Thank you for joining me as you keep learning from home. I look forward to seeing you again for another lesson on KSPS. Bye.